So today on our first episode of Life in Law, we have a special guest, which is Casey, and she is here to join us today. And today we're talking about domestic violence in relationships. Um, so Casey, welcome. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Welcome.
Appreciate it.
So why don't you tell just a little bit about yourself for the listeners, just to start off.
Okay, so I'm Casey. I am a mom. I'm a photographer by trade. I am also a survivor of attempted homicide and domestic violence. I've been relocated out of the state of Connecticut. And right now, what's happening is I have been forced to do my own investigation to uncover multiple violations. And so I'm just trying to address those and then also trying to, inform the public. So, because if these things are happening to me, they're happening to other mothers or other domestic violence victims.
So, um,
So,
So I just wanted to say before we talk more, like I myself have also experienced a lot of different domestic violence situations. And I think that many women who I've spoken to have also experienced it and can understand and relate. And I
yeah,
think that, when you've been through physical violence and emotional violence and coercive control and psychological abuse, a lot of times people are not able to recognize these signs of abuse. And it's easy to
right,
think that, oh, my boyfriend is just controlling, or, oh, my husband is just trying to protect, me. And people will be so quick to just brush it off. And I feel like a lot of women and young girls, they don't know how to recognize the signs of abuse. And I think,
right.
everybody knows, like, okay, somebody hits you, somebody puts their hands on you, it's abuse. But there's so many
Yeah, you
other,
automatically know that. Yeah,
yeah. And
right,
like one of the biggest ones that I think that many women, girls don't realize is about stalking. And that's
right.
something
Or
I
how
dealt with.
even, but how even how it starts off mostly as like coercive control and manipulation. They don't just, if my ex had punched me in the face on the first date, I wouldn't have gone back out with him.
Exactly. And it's like, it starts with them calling you a name. It starts with them making a joke that's really not that funny, that has like a
Right.
little bit of an insult in there because they
Or
test the
breaking
waters.
something of yours that's like really
Yeah.
important and acting like it was an accident,
Yeah, like smashing your
during a
phone.
rage.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
And then
Right.
apologizing and then wanting to make it up to you. And then, okay, you give them a chance, you want to forgive them, and then
Or
they do it
or
again.
they hurt themselves, or they hurt themselves, they punch something and now their fist is broken. Now you got to go to the hospital and you're concentrating on that. And so the argument's over, right?
Yeah. And so, like also with stalking, like a lot of people don't realize that it's not just hiding in the bushes. You like some people think, and it's the definition of stalking is so much more than that. And I actually
Right.
had pulled it up
It's huge,
because,
actually. It's a very long definition, a long one. And a majority of stalking is not physical. It doesn't start off that way.
yeah. And
It
like,
starts off online. It starts off breaking into your phone. It starts off by, following your friends maybe, or trying to be in a public place where you'll be at. But it's not like they're hiding in the bushes. Like that's probably the last part of the beginning of somebody that's stalking you.
exactly. And anybody who thinks it's just hiding in the bushes is really grossly misinformed. And I want everybody to
Absolutely.
realize too, no matter what state you live in, federal law applies to all the states. And according to federal law, they have a definition of stalking. And I have it right
Yes.
here. Stalking is any repeated or unwanted contact with you that makes you feel unsafe. You can be stalked by a stranger, but most people who stalk you are people that you know, especially an
Yep.
intimate partner. And it says stalking may get worse or become violent over time, and it may be a sign of abusive relationship. And it gives some examples. following you around, spying on you, sending you unwanted emails or letters, calling you all the time, showing up uninvited at your house, work, or school, leaving you unwanted gifts, damaging your home, car, or property, threatening you, family, or pets with violence. So even damaging your property is considered stalking under federal law. So when somebody can
Yep.
say, "Oh,
Or
is he
leaving
hiding
like
in
a
the
note on your
bushes?"
car.
Yeah. And then I feel like that's part of the reason why many women face barriers when they actually have the courage to go to the authorities, go ask for help from an organization, and especially if you have
Absolutely.
kids.
Yeah,
What
and then they're misinformed, because a lot of the times the cops are, even, domestic violence victim advocates, they don't really, I don't know why they don't, but they should. But, then a lot of victims get misinformed, about what laws actually apply to their situation or whether it is stalking or not.
exactly.
So really important that we, people that have been through this educate the next generation, so that they understand the difference between, like I had said to you before, feeling like, oh gosh, this person really wants to get to know me, like with my experience with my ex following me all the way to my car. I was flattered. I was flattered because he kept like saying, come on, please give me your number. Please give me your number. Give me your number. And I was like, no, 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 no. Like, I don't give out my number and whatnot. And I didn't. But it was still like I was flattered, like feeling like, wow, he really wants to get to know me, when that's really the complete opposite. It was like literally the beginning of stalking. It was a sign that I missed because it was never taught to me.
Yeah, and a lot of times they will like, they'll study you. They'll look and obsess over you before they even ever talk to you. So then when they talk to
Right.
you, they're like, "Oh, oh wow, you like the Yankees? That's my favorite team," even though they don't like even watch baseball. They'll see you're wearing
Absolutely.
a hat and focus on that, and that's what narcissists do. And these
Right.
men that are like narcissistic are so abusive, but to the public, to everybody else, they appear to be cool,
Normal.
collective, popular. Like,
Completely normal. Right. They act normal. Like they got their shit together. They have great jobs. Like out in public, out in society, they are completely functioning human beings. It's
and
weird.
manipulative.
Right. But they're functioning. You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't think that they would behave like this in a relationship or behind closed doors.
Yeah.
But they do.
And the love bombing in the beginning, like, they'll take you on nice dates. They'll go out of their way for you. They'll do
Yep.
everything you would want to like suck you in. And then that's bringing us to the next point of, the struggles that mothers face and endure when they try to leave. Because like,
All right.
you could stay with this abusive person and put up with the abuse for the rest of your life. And a lot of our mothers and grandmothers would do that. I mean, for
Right.
political reasons and social reasons, but also because of the fact that it's not easy to leave. You try to leave,
No.
they'll come after you a lot of the times. And if they don't come after you,
It's
they
more
come after your
dangerous.
kids. Yeah.
Well, I think it's worse when you leave because like so I don't use like the boiling pot analogy. I use the shark analogy. So imagine you're swimming in the ocean and you're surrounded by sharks. You see their fins. You know that you're in danger, but you kind of still feel a sense of safety because you can see where the sharks are. You can see their fins, right? But once that shark goes down underneath the ocean and you can't see that fin anymore, that's when the real fear and the danger is, right? Because you don't know when that shark's going to come and get you. And so that's the analogy I use when it comes to domestic violence, perpetrators.
Yeah, I really like that one a lot. And also like, for me, like having been in like abusive situations both before and after having children, I think as a mother, it's another layer of danger where, then you have to wonder like, okay, is this person going to try to trigger me to react a certain way and then try to record it and then try to threaten me and then try to take my children from me when
Yep.
you're together? Oh, you're the most beautiful mom in the world. You're the best mom. Oh, let's have more babies, blah, 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 blah. But as soon
Right.
as I don't
Right.
want you anymore, as soon as I won't sleep with you anymore, I'm taking Angelina. You're never going to see her
Right.
again. And then the financial abuse. Oh, the child
Right.
support issue. even if there's a court order that they have to pay, they will not pay it to hurt
No.
you. And like
Yeah.
my case, it's insane. Like this guy's getting away with everything, and there really is,
Literally. No, it literally he is. He
and
did.
like
I
the
mean,
system
well,
is so
I'm
broken.
like, so my ex literally kidnapped my daughter for 5 months from me, and the cops in Connecticut, nobody would help me. Nobody. I had to fly over there and put myself in physical danger, be held 25 days captive with my daughter.
And did
And
he
he
have
used
custody?
major coercive control tactics. What's that?
Did he have custody at all at that time?
No.
So you had sole custody and he took her and they wouldn't do anything?
We didn't establish custody at that time.
But
We
you were
had been
never married,
co-parent.
right?
Never.
Yeah, so he would have had to actually go to court to establish custody at the time.
Right. Right. Nope. He just kidnapped her and left the state and flew over 5,000 miles away.
What
And I
was
didn't
he
see my daughter
on
for
the birth
5 months.
certificate?
Huh?
Did he sign the birth certificate?
Yep.
Yeah, which is
Yep.
another
Because,
way that,
how we're raised, I mean, you're Greek, I'm Italian. So that's how we're raised. We're raised, oh, she got his last name. He signed the birth certificate. I tried to co-parent with him because, that's what you do. You take care of your children, which includes facilitating a relationship between your child and the non-custodial parent. That was my responsibility. And so that's what I tried to do. He couldn't do it. It was him that couldn't do it because
yeah,
it
and
had
I
to be
think
100%
like
his way,
Yeah, and I think
you
like
know.
from my understanding that actually in Connecticut specifically, if they sign the birth certificate and you never went to court yet for custody, then both of you
They
actually have
have rights,
equal rights.
50-50.
But in other
Absolutely.
states,
But
if
but
you're,
not back then. But not back then. This was in 2004. That wasn't established yet.
yeah, because like now they have even more rights. But in other states, it was like if you're not
Right.
married, you have sole custody and the father has to like prove it, even if he signs the birth certificate.
Right.
So I almost feel like
Right.
Connecticut's system is more dangerous for women because there's
Absolutely.
like, if you're not married and you have a baby with somebody, there's always an extra chance that maybe this isn't a healthy relationship because you weren't even married. And like if you got pregnant right away and the person's abusive and like with Juliana's father, he was physically violent before, during, and after my pregnancy. Like I remember
Absolutely.
her being a newborn and him throwing things at me with her in my arms, like
Right.
literally physically causing harm. And
Yeah.
it's scary. And then when you try to leave and you have
But
no money and there's no
but
resources, which
that's
is,
but that's the healthy marriage, responsible fatherhood. I found all this grant money. I found the grant language, and that's what it says. It says literally that they want to prevent single moms from or single women from having children. They want to push marriage. Not only
because
that,
they're
they
saying
had a
they're
law
leeching
years
off the
ago.
welfare because
But no, I don't
that
know
was
if
their
you know this.
sales pitch.
Listen, they had law a few years ago in Connecticut called the Mantis Law or something. I'll have to send it to you. And basically what it was if you were 21 years and younger and you got pregnant and you weren't married, you were going to jail. They were jailing single moms 21 years young and younger in Connecticut. This was an
Believe it.
actual law.
Yeah.
But Connecticut's the leader in protecting women and children, right?
Yeah. And like I'll touch briefly on what you mentioned because it's almost like this is how these ideas get pitched with Congress to get these bills to get signed because
Right. And
every
they're
time that,
general bills, but then they leave the power up to the states to like
yeah,
interpret it
they're
and they
not
get the
regulated.
freedom.
Exactly.
No, they're not regulated. But listen, and that's because that whatever that case was, I can't think of it right now. But also this has to do with the overthrow of Roe versus Wade because privacy rights has to do with abortion rights for women. Family privacy. Like we get more privacy if we're married. That's how the laws are written. And so that has to do also with Roe versus Wade. They don't want us to have children out of wedlock and become dependent upon the state. That's why we don't have a lot of rights when we're victims in the state. But Congress wanted to be rid of it. They don't want to be bothered with our rights. And so they literally threw us to the wolves
Well,
because having us be left to the states has proven to be biased and discriminatory. And Congress knows this. They
I
were
mean,
sick of it.
like, my whole point about the whole thing, because I know we could go on and on about like the actual details of the language and stuff like that, but the whole point is that
But
when
they're
people,
punishing moms. They're manipulating the language, and that's why they're getting away with it.
well, if
They're
you
calling
ask
it a
yourself,
pilot
like,
project.
how did they get this to be have enough popularity to pass? Well, like you said, they were saying, look, all these moms keep having babies without a husband. And what does that mean? Now these moms are getting food stamps, they're getting WIC, they're leeching off the welfare system, they're getting medical, and
Absolutely.
not like other countries where they actually give their people insurance. In
But
America,
the
you have
thing
to.
was, but it was false information. They weren't leeching off of
Right, but this
the
is the sales,
system.
like that's why I call it the sales pitch, because every time Congress passes any,
Right.
it's if you actually read it, they'll sneak in other things in there, and all at the end of the
Yep.
day, all of these things do is grant money. And then, like you
Right.
said, if there's nobody there to be like, hey, where's this money going, and is it
Yep.
working, and whatever, it's a free for
Right.
all. Then you pair it with the states having a monopoly on domestic relations abstention doctrine, which the federal courts always
Yep.
kick you out, and Rooker-Feldman and all
Mhm.
this stuff. You
Yep.
have this multi-billion-dollar industry where children are getting ruined, and they're getting
Right.
funneled into the system of big pharma and everything else. And it brings me back to what we were
And we're
saying.
getting trafficked. I mean, me
Yeah,
and Nalu were considered by law trafficking victims of Connecticut. Connecticut fucking trafficked us. Sorry.
yeah. And
Connecticut trafficked us.
I think everybody can agree that we have a very broken system in the United
Oh,
States, and
yeah.
especially Connecticut for one. But
Yep.
the other thing that I think that is a big problem is what I call a lack of support. And so it's like, you don't have support from the community. You don't get support from financially. You don't get, like, for example, if you're in an abusive relationship in Connecticut and you have, let's say, one kid or two kids and your husband beats you and all this stuff and you want to leave him, which organization are you going to call that will make sure that you and your child can safely get medical attention, go in a safe house, all this stuff? I would be scared to call those because then
They're all fatherhood funded.
you're going to get in trouble. Yeah, exactly. So it's like,
They're all fatherhood funded. So like BH Care is probably the safest, I would say, that BH Care is. Um, that's from my experience and from my research. But like places like Interval House, which is, run by Blumenthal and all those men, places like the
Blumenthal, the
Village.
one whose wife was 15 and he was 38 when they met.
Yep. And then like the Village, that's mostly fatherhood as well. Like, so from my experience and from my research, when a woman, needs support and stuff like that, say she's even in family court and they're saying stuff like, oh, you need to go through the like parent classes or whatever, because you got to prove you're a decent parent. Um, they only have like literally a parenting class for moms. And I think that that's also for moms that are like just coming out of like prison. They don't have much for the moms in prison for their kids and stuff. Like not like the dads. And they don't have many support systems, in the programs. It's mostly geared towards fathers and families.
Yeah.
So you're
And
going to be including your abuser if you go for any kind of services in the state of Connecticut for your domestic violence situations, because they don't even call it domestic violence anymore. They're erasing that language and they're just starting to call it trauma. They're saying that these men have aces.
yeah, and like also like with the mothers, like, people don't understand like mental health, and especially with like postpartum, especially there's no support. Like
Right.
go to the
No.
hospital, you have a baby, they literally keep you in there for like 2 days and they send you home and then you're on
Yep.
your own. Most
Yep.
women go back to work immediately. Like, and with mine, it was like, with Angelina, I was literally working from the hospital. I never took a maternity break. We have
Yep.
zero support for women. In other countries, they'll pay for a woman to stay home with the baby for like the first year and the dad.
Yeah.
You get like
Yeah.
paid leave, and it's like it's paid from our taxes. So it's like
Right.
what we are paying the
No,
same, if
Connecticut, I
not
think
more
gives you like,
taxes.
I think if you choose to stay home with your baby for the first year, Connecticut used to let you do this. I don't know if they do anymore, but when they used to, it was only like 200 or $300 a month they gave you. You couldn't live off of that.
They don't do that anymore, but now you have to pay into it with your employer for the CT paid leave, but you can only use it for like 3 months or something, or 4 months is like the max,
Right,
and
because
it's
they
only
punish
what you
you.
pay in. Yeah, so it's like,
Right, it's a punishment. It's
and
they,
then you're
they punish
paying
the
taxes on
moms.
top of it. So it's like, what are your taxes paying for then? If other countries support women and support mothers and
Well, they're
like
definitely
mental
not
health.
paying for police services, that's for sure.
Yeah. And it's like a lot of times, like when people don't understand like trauma is so debilitating. And especially like if you're dealing with like PTSD and PPD and like all these external stressors, and you're not getting support from
Right.
your partner, if you don't have family,
No,
if you don't have friends, you try to join these women's groups and they attack each
no,
other.
and then you're called a failure because you're struggling. And that's the thing, is like we're held to a higher standard.
Then they call you crazy. But if a man says, "Oh, I'm
Right.
struggling," they'll be like, "Oh, you're so brave.
Oh,
You're so brave
oh
for
yeah.
speaking out."
Right. Let me help you. Let me
Yeah.
help you. Or if we
Yeah.
do it, it's like, what's wrong with you? You're a mom. You
Yeah.
should know how to do this. Yeah,
How many
I know.
times have a male celebrity check themselves into rehab, and people congratulate them for being strong, but when someone like Britney Spears, a beautiful, successful woman does it, they're like, "Oh, take her kids away, lock her up, and throw away the key." Like, and
Yep.
it's crazy. Like I made
What's made
videos
her
before
what's
about
made
her.
her react. And you
Yeah,
see, actually, she's a great example to state because you can see the reaction when you suppress a woman like that.
yeah. What
And you
happens when you
suppress
take a
her and
kid
suppress her and suppress
and
her
take
and
her
you don't
kids
let her
away?
really express herself. You, right. You punish her for
Yeah.
expressing herself. Well, guess what? She's going to want to shave her head because that's a feeling of freedom. And she's going to want to beat the shit out of anything around her because she's angry, rightfully so. I
And what were
mean,
they doing? And that's a perfect example, because when she tried to have an outburst, she was mad that she was constantly getting stalked and harassed by paparazzi,
right.
and so here we go. This is what
And
stalking
so she
does
was
to you.
but they did that to her on purpose. They
Yeah.
even stated it. They were like, we
This is
knew
what
we would get arrested.
narcissists do. It's the same thing narcissists do. And then they pull out their camera.
Absolutely.
Oh, look, she's crazy. She's crazy. But
Yep.
she
Yeah.
wasn't crazy
Yeah.
when she was with you. Like,
Absolutely. Yeah. They do it all the time, all the freaking time, the paparazzi. And they admit it. They admit it.
yeah.
They
Or they
gang
try
up
to
on
make a,
people. They get
they
it.
try to get an
It's
ugly
the
picture on
same.
purpose so that they
It's the
can,
same mentality. It's the same mentality. Let me see. I know. So they figure us out real fast because narcissists are, they're just good at copying people. You know what I mean? So they're great people readers. And so they figure us out real fast. They know what makes us tick. Not only that, once you give us a baby and you take our baby away, or you threaten to like leave the country, steal our child, we're never going to see our child again. We're going to react to that. The judges know that too. The professionals know that. Everybody.
yeah,
That's a medical, like, I mean, that's biology. You take a
yeah.
woman's child, she's going to follow the child.
I know. And I feel like I posted the June 15th hearing to the podcast yesterday, and I want to post all of them,
Good.
including the May 25th one when she did take Angelina. And during that hearing, it was like she was sitting there smiling, waiting for me to like go crazy. Like she was
I
waiting for
know.
that reaction, and I never gave it to her. Instead, I was emotional, but
Right.
I was being reasonable, and like any mother
Right.
would have like jumped over the thing, and like that guy in that state that like attacked the judge and like
Right. Right.
jumped
Right.
on the
Yeah.
judge. She was waiting for me to do something like that so that she could then like lock me up, and
I'm sure
having the
she
marshals
was.
behind you with handcuffs. And it's like, what did
Yep.
I do? And even if I did lie, which I never did, but even if I did, even if anyone did, That is not grounds to take your child away from you. That is not grounds.
No.
If you said, oh, if a man,
How many
if
fathers lie and
how
they
many
still
fathers
have
lie
access
about
to their
stuff in
kids?
investigations and then they get forced to have visitation, like the woman who
Right.
husband's convicted of rape and she's over here in jail because she didn't want to do forced therapy with the kids with him.
Right. Right. That's what happened to me. They were threatening me
Yeah.
in 2013. Nalu had to do the 3 months of reunification therapy. 3 fucking months. She doesn't have any memories of the first 10 years of her life now because of that. They're gone.
Yeah. And
She's
then it's like
nothing.
drives people to have further problems psychologically. And then people turn to drugs and alcohol. And then they try to just
Or they
give
just
you all
have
these
health problems.
medications. Yeah. And then you
Well,
have,
honestly,
or
what
they
women happens to
eat.
women is they get a lot of like neurological issues. Like my daughter's at 19 years old, she had to go on blood pressure medication, and she's seeing a cardiologist
That's
because of the
crazy.
stress from not being
Yeah.
protected by the state of Connecticut, by being trafficked by them.
Yeah. And so I can only imagine how my kids are going to be. And I can only think about what I went through growing up and as a teen and as a mom. And I felt like I accomplished a lot based on my circumstances and not having any support or money or anything and
Absolutely, you
having to come
did.
from zero. And then it's like they just take it all away from you. And like they're just
Yep.
like, oh, see, and they try to
And then if
bankrupt
you
you. They
react
try to
to it,
ruin you.
right, and if you react at all to it, they will
Yeah.
literally use that against you in any
Yeah.
aspect. So it doesn't
They're
matter
like,
what you say.
let's
You could be like, I
traumatize.
fucking hate you. I wish I never fucking met you. And they'll just fucking flip that around and make it whatever it is they want to make it.
Yeah, they're like, let's traumatize the shit out of you until you finally snap and then point the finger at you and be like, oh, see, we told you she was crazy.
Right. Absolutely.
But, all right. Well, again, I want to thank you for coming on today to
Thank
talk. And
you.
this was a great conversation. And, maybe even next time if your daughter wants to come on, she could talk about her experience as a child who was aged out of the system and dealing with the after effects. Because everybody always says, oh, your child will be 18 soon. Don't worry, they'll be 18 soon. But everybody forgets, well, what happens after that? You have your whole life after that where you're dealing with the aftermath that then you try to sue them and they're like, oh, well, judicial immunity, sovereign immunity, too bad. And it's like,
Mhm.
it
Or you find
continues.
out like, or you find out things like that I found out where like actual crimes were committed, where like, they've actually violated, laws and penal code too. Or you find out that for 11 years you've had the family violence indicator on your abuser and they've been known as the victim and you've been known as the abuser all these years. Like
Yeah.
that's what you deal with once your child ages out. You learn all of these things that have happened and either you make a choice. You're either going to drown in it or you're going to move through it, and
Yeah.
try to fight for your rights. But honestly, I think that what's happening is a lot of domestic violence victims, when you come forward, they have loopholes that they know about and they are assisting men to go through these loopholes. So
Yeah.
I think
The
maybe touch
system
on
is built
that.
by these men. They build the system for themselves to protect themselves. That's how it's
Absolutely.
always been.
Yep.
The more
Like
we
I said,
speak up,
yeah, right. So,
but yeah,
but
next
yeah,
time I'd love to talk about also the connections with all of this AI and all of these computerized systems that flag you as DV and this and that and the issues that you were talking about with that because I think that would make a good topic for the next one of our next episodes.
yeah, because if like, look, with all the evidence I have, if that's happening to me, it's happening to every domestic violence victim. And I told you that that statement was actually made to me where they stated to me that they are doing that to every case. So yeah, let's touch on that.
Yeah, because remember, if
Because
they're
the
not
public
they're
has a
not
right to
following you in the
know.
bushes, then if they're not hiding in the bushes, then you can't help them. But all right, thank you so
Call
much
me,
again.
call me if they're hiding in the bushes. That's what they say.
Yeah,
Yeah,
oh my
yeah.
God. Anyways,
I
but
know.
thank you so much for joining today, and I hope you
Thank you
enjoy
for
the rest
having
of your
me.
day, and we'll talk soon.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.